Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch, and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And Yahweh answered me, and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Call Lord Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakah Kadash, double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than never. The would-be judges of 144,000, the tabernacle of David, all right, set up by the world falsely and fraudulently calls JC. His name is Yahushai, right? And he's coming back to set up the 12 tribes of Israel, primarily of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, to set them up as a new government over all people, over all nations, all right? To implement the laws of heaven, the laws of the Bible, on earth as it is in heaven, a new heaven and a new earth coming down, right? The kingdom of heaven is an earthly kingdom. It will be ruled by the Israelites under the authority of Yahushai. And to the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled birds, the Israelite foreigners, among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations, even some Israelites coming looking like this man on the screen. For we were scattered among all people. This is why the angels are going to come. The angels are going to come and gather our scattered people from out of the other nations. That is biblical. That is what's written. This is not a black-only thing. All right, and to the few Akwaf, the sisters that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm, coming at you with another important lesson and message. All right, as you see, breaking coup alert on base threat. Soldiers, get ready. Tankers blow up in Michigan. Stock up now. So this guy is preparing you, or trying to prepare people, carnally, to prepare for what's about to happen. And basically, I've spoken about these things that he's talking about in this video before they happen. The difference is that he's trying to big up the government when the American government is the most corrupt government on the earth, right along with its counterpartner, or its boss nation, the Israelis. All right, because Israeli policy has been implemented here in America. Trump betrayed America and put Israel first. You know, now they keep talking about how he converted to Judaism in 2017. It looks like that may be true, but nevertheless, he definitely betrayed his America First policy. And now they're firing generals in the middle of a war, etc., etc. So I'm going to play this video, and then I'll give a short commentary in scripture on some of the things that he says. This is an 11-minute video. I'm probably going to play about 5 or 6 minutes of it, and then I have this video. Also, 48 hours until fuel crisis. Here's what will happen next. Professor Jiang, or Jiang, and I don't know how to pronounce his Chinese last name. I don't know, so I'm not going to even attempt to. So we're just going to call him Professor Jiang X. Jiang X. Okay? So without any further ado, let's declare. Let's get the, let's read the copyright statute first. Alright? Only takes a second to do so. Copyright statute disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 under the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
On the brink of a military shakeup. Possibly a coup event taking place inside of our military. We see a lot of action.
If you don't know what a coup means, that means when the military is takes over the government, all right, or another group of military replaces the current military. Because what you have happening, in all honesty, without picking sides, because I don't have a dog in this fight and I really don't care, is the fact that I've been telling you for months or weeks, if you've been watching my videos, all right, that the soldiers would stand up and defend the Constitution. And you have a current government that's basically in violation of the Constitution over and over again. And these soldiers are tired of following unlawful orders and being told that if you don't follow these unlawful orders, you're the problem. When the UCMJ is very, very strict about the law, and all soldiers swear an oath to support the Constitution first, over both enemies, foreign and domestic. And you have a domestic leadership that is blatantly violating the law of the land. All right? and you had many soldiers, and they went. And so we're now entered into a illegal war that was put on by the administration, and it's causing catastrophes and destruction of the country, right? Meanwhile, too, the allegiance of America, the government, is to the Israeli government above his own citizens. Okay, while American citizens are struggling just to put food on their tables and pay their bills, and all stressed out that these things are happening, and yet they have billions to spend on Israeli war while leaving Americans out, hanging Americans out to dry, pretty much. All right. So you can see the name of the video on the screen if you just want to go watch the same, this video in its entirety. The name of the video is at the bottom of the screen. Type it in. Don't ask me to put up the link. Do some work. See, some of you are just so disgustingly lazy. You want everything done for you like you're a 4-year-old, like you're 3 years old. Be active. And so, let's get this going.
With high-ranking military officials being relieved of their duties, we see some positioning of military enforcement happening on base. The Department of War just told American soldiers who are trusted and vetted to carry weapons on base. We do have a couple of setbacks taking place, and there is a...
Now that's heavy. That's heavy. When you are to carry weapons on base means you're in an extremely hostile situation, because when you're on base, you all turn your weapons in to the armory. Okay, for you, those of you who've never been in the military don't understand how it works. When we return from operations, when we return from duty, you would line up and you would check your weapon into the armory. Okay, the armorers would take your weapon and store it. And so before you go back out to the field, before you go back out on duty, before you would go to to gather up your sidearm and your weapon. Okay, and the only people that walked around armed all the time was the sergeant, the sergeant of the guard and the captain of the guard and the people on guard duty. Those are the people who were armed. They're saying that they want everyone that is vetted, or the soldiers, to walk around armed. So this is serious. This is a very serious situation. All right, not to be frowned upon or dismissed as if it's nothing.
Perception of change. This change is in, U.S. dominance in the Middle East. Now, whether what is happening is exaggerated or not, the larger issue is that something is clearly shifting. And the American people are not getting straight answers about it. Reports of top generals being removed are being...
And Americans are not getting honest answers about it. And America no longer has dominancy in Western Asia. See, when someone uses that term Middle East, that's usually a very racist and hateful person, or a person that's completely with the system, because the Middle East was established by very racist Edomites. They always try to change and control the narrative. The so-called Middle East sits in Western Asia. So you got to be careful, people, when they use that term. What they're telling you for is therefore the corruption and the system of white superiority, because that's what that term Middle East has done. It allows the apartheid system of the unrighteous Edomite rulership of the Amalekites over there in the land of Israel, the Israelites in the land of Israel, to forward their apartheid colonial, because they're no different from the South Africans, no different from the Australians, and just to have another Edomite colony over in Western Asia. And so they named it the Middle East so that they can control the narrative and the racial narrative, as if they were always there and that they belong there, and they don't.
Dismissed as routine. But the timing is what matters. We have this happening during an open conflict, during the theater of war. Major changes in the middle of escalation and tension are not nothing. They signal internal fracturing. Strategic reason. So
internal fracturing. Let me get a couple of scriptures of things that I just talked about. First one would be I think it's Micah. Yeah, it's Micah. Micah 2:2. Start at verse 1. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. All right. So when you come into a land, colonize it, and then try to force history and force a narrative that this was your land and this is where you're from, when all the history and the relics and the DNA shows that you're not. Okay. That's a problem. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hands. And they covet fields. They cover all this. They covet this land. They want it. It's like a man that lusts after another man's wife. When there's 100 other women in the room, but for some reason he's only wants this man's wife, right? And to take them by violence and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage, and they will oppress the current inhabitants of Western Asia have been oppressed by the presence of Edomites there, especially the Gazans, especially the Palestinians, though it be not their home either, right? You got to remember Joel, told you that land will be parted, by strangers, okay, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And now we're reaching, Israel will be trodden down, the Holy Land will be trodden down with the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So now we're at the end of the Gentiles' rule. And the number one ruler that's on top of everything right now is Esau, Edom, which I'm 100% sure that this guy is, all right? And the nation of Edom, well, this is the appearance of the Edomites, all right? Red, red all over, like a hairy garment. They came out red, and today they call themselves Caucasian or white, all right? In this current time period, they refer to themselves as Caucasian or white, okay?
Sex and an uncertainty at close to the highest levels of command. Now, some of the information that I'm getting suggests that there may have been another attempt or a halted attempt on the life of the President of the United States of America, his safety, or the leadership of our military's safety. The message that we're getting from Washington is kind of at ends with reality.
Yes.
We're being told that Iran as a country is crippled, yet they're taking our jets down.
Then, so not only that, not only they're taking your jets down, they've destroyed all the military bases in the area, that they're uninhabitable. Therefore, I just saw a report on how thousands of sailors are being, sent to Italy and sent to neutral places, all right, because their habitations have been destroyed, and also that 750 American soldiers have been unalived. And if they're admitting to 750, some people are admitted to it, some people are in denial of it. But if they're telling you 750, the number is probably much higher, much higher.
Yeah, I'm getting over 1,500 myself.
What I've learned over the years is that if Edom tells you 20, the number is usually double that, so it's usually 40. So we may be looking at thousands, well into the thousands of dead Americans, and there's no way you can bomb military bases to where they're uninhabitable, which means they've been ruined. They lost their presence in the Western Asia. There's no more American rule, all right, or control in Western Asia. That's the facts of the matter. Okay, which is creating a complete instability in that area. And also, as a result of it, people not even involved in this war, because this is damaging Europe and Europe's fuel supply. Like what they're doing in America is it's not even understandable, because America actually has lots of oil itself. And there's no reason I can see what food prices are going up, but there's no reason that oil prices should be going up too. So this is just them, taking advantage of the situation, because they want to bring on this collapse so they can do a reset. All right? But this is all leading up to insurrection.
The region itself is becoming more unstable by the day. There are economists that are warning that the Strait of Hormuz is a time bomb. A single miscalculation by Iran, America, or Israel will see fuel prices surging, fertilizer basically non-existent, and the increase in prices all across the retail board. And then there's the bigger problem. Well, what happens next? From a non-politically but conservative standpoint, this is where you should be alarmed. If our leadership is walking us into a potential world war, and trust me, there's a lot of people, including past presidents, who have said that this is the inevitability.
And see, this is him double talking, because he's trying to talk about the military protecting the leadership, but the leadership is leading you into the unrighteous wars and putting everyone in danger while violating the law, and while they're releasing the top brass, the top generals, who are standing up for the law. You can't be both. This dude is a straight up devil right here, man. You cannot be both. So the generals that are at odds with the men over them are actually in the right. If these generals are all pro-America and pro the Constitution, when you have people in office like the trash Secretary of War Crimes Pete Hegwitz and the Orange Puff Boy, the draft dodger, all right, in leadership, violating the law of the land, when these men who have served, fought, died, bled, all right, earned their positions, are trying to uphold the law of the land. But you have a leadership that's not. The top brass are supposed to stand up and remove. See, they're at odds. So that sedition is coming. It's literally happening, real time.
That a war with China, inevitable. A war involving Russia, inevitable. And taking out Iran must take place. But the United States of America right now is standing.
Take out Iran and Iran, you have to deal with all the BRICS nations and probably with some NATO and EU nations as well. Because a lot of them now are doing business with the same said countries.
As the most powerful force on Earth.
And America is not the most, America got a lot of missiles, but clearly they're not the most powerful force on Earth. How can you, see, look, this is double talk. Let me let him say that again.
Powerful force on Earth.
Hold on.
Holding Russia, inevitable. And taking out Iran must take place. But the United States of America right now is standing as the most powerful force on Earth.
And so America couldn't beat they lost in Iraq because the Iraqs came back up. They've lost every war since Vietnam. Hell, World War II, and then when the Russians won World War II, Americans just like to, pretend like they did. It was the Russians that won World War II. And then they eliminated the Russians from NATO and the EU as their reward. So in all honesty, Americans haven't won a war in a very long time, more than half a century. Every major conflict they've been in, they've overthrown small countries that really didn't have a military big enough and strong enough to fight them. They've done that. But, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, they've lost all those wars, man. So how are they the most, and they're fighting Iran right now, and Iran is winning. Iran has destroyed and eliminated the American presence in Western Asia. Destroyed all their bases in the surrounding countries. But they're the most powerful force. That's that racist Edomite cognitive dissonance or cognitive denialism. When you present them with facts that prove their narrative is a lie, this is what they do.
So we're looking for something to change this week, and it looks like President Trump is holding true to his warning to the Iranians that he will take out their bridges, their electricity, and their water treatment. So
I mean, with fucking commercial, these son of
Yeah, you heard me cuss too.
I'm not gonna do it until I can hit skip. I hate that shit.
Me too.
France. This could go very bad for America, because if you wipe out an entire populace of tens of millions,
what do you think they're gonna do to Israel if they do this to over there to Iran? Right? Tel Aviv is getting to the point where it's starting to look like Gaza now.
Yep.
Israelis are leaving by the thousands. This is how you know that they're not the people of the Lord. Matter of fact, let's get a quick scripture on that one. One of my favorites.
Bastards dwelling in the land.
29 or 28. And it reads, Israel shall then dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon the land of corn and wine, and all his heavens shall drop down dew. They're not in heaven, they're in hell right now. They're in hellish conditions, and they're not dwelling in peace and safety alone. These people are not the people of the Lord. All right? They're the implant frauds. Zechariah 9 and 6. And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. That's Tel Aviv. A people that have not the Father. A false, fake, phony, fraudulent people. Those are synonyms to the word bastard. They're not the people of the Lord. Then you got red people like him that push a message that is they are, and that Christians must support them. And the funny thing is that Judaism shits on Christianity all day, every day. The rabbis, shit all over your white Jesus all day, every day. And tell you to come die for Israel, little piggies, Christian piggies. They're completely against the Bible and Christianity. They'll talk about the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, but, the Bible condemns any other book. And they're Talmudists, worshiping from another book. So this isn't about religion. This is about Edomite superiority, so-called whiteness. Edomite superiority. All right? That's what this is about.
Into people's ability to keep their grandmas alive, to keep their children alive, their newborns, their infants, the people in the hospital. Well, you're going to be painted as the aggressor. And already we have NATO allies that are saying maybe America is the problem.
So now we go here. NATO allies that are saying that America is the problem. And guess who those NATO allies are going to join into?
Russia.
Get worse.
CEO Wael Sawan issued a warning last week that almost nobody paid attention to. He said Europe could face fuel shortages in April. Not May, not summer, April. We are now in April, and the warning is coming true. 900 gas stations in France have run out of at least one type of fuel. Multiple petrol stations in the UK have closed after operators reported
That's your main
aggressive
fuel, by the way.
customers fighting over remaining supplies. Slovakia is implementing emergency measures. The Netherlands is reporting shortages, and this is just the beginning. Shell CEO was specific about the timeline. He said the fuel crisis would hit South Asia first, then Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, and then more so into Europe as we get into April.
And Europe is Western Asia. All right? There's no divide. That's one continent. Okay? So nevertheless, NATO and EU countries are in trouble because of Israeli and American policies. They're going through what they're going through, which is going to lead to them turning against. And it literally is about to be America and the Israelis against the whole world. And that's exactly what is happening.
Now, this is a huge problem for me because, like our administration has said, we have given them trillions of dollars. We have backed them up even when we...
So he's saying we backed them up when you're the one that caused their problem. See,
Yeah.
Because you're the one that tied... He's talking about America has given the EU and the NATO billions of dollars, and it's a problem with him. And so this is someone to have cognitive dissonance and cognitive denialism of the facts at hand. The European Union, all right, and NATO were forced into these agreements. They were bullied into it to use the petrodollar. And they were bullied into these Israeli wars when they were actually some of the people that they were forced to go to war with and support the Israelis were putting sanctions on different nations. These European nations actually had dealings with these people, and over the years we've been reporting on this, and that's what's led up to this point. All right, because the Edomites are a house divided, and a house divided or race divided cannot stand. You know, I just quoted that scripture, but that would be in Mark 3:23 through like 25. Satan against Satan. All right, adversary against adversary, human adversary. The deceiver against the deceiver. Okay? So this is 2 Ezra 15 and 14. And it reads, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. So you got this threat of this military coup. You got a corrupt government, and now you got soldiers that want to stand up and set the government back in order. And the current government is going to fight them and demonize them to keep them and label them terrorists. And probably the new people that are... So this is... I keep talking about that movie Civil War. That is exactly what happened. But there shall be sedition among men. You're watching the sedition happen real time. And invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings or princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. It's just like the woman talked about, buying bullets and learning survival tactics and watching The Walking Dead and movies like that. Minus you take away the zombies, because there's a video that a brother sent me, a Korean thing that's kind of like The Walking Dead that I actually intend to do a lesson on. The mindset of the people. All right, and then because Americans are lazy collectively. All right, and they show you, and what was that movie, Homestead? I mean, so many movies. They just show you over and over again how you got people who try to plant and grow food, feed, and take care of themselves, and then you have the other people. Their mentality is to just arm up, let you do all the work, and then come take your shit. And those people are going to be the more plentiful. So those who have are going to have to always constantly defend themselves against people who have not, but have weaponry and numbers and men that are really willing to kick in your doors or assault your property. To try to take away your food, your supplies, your firearms, and whatever. Because they don't want to do the work. They just want to come in and reap the benefits, which is the American way. That's how our government operates. They covet fields and take them by violence. All right? And so as the leadership, so is the people. So what do you expect to happen when the lights go out and everything, when these days of sedition, invading one another? And they shall not regard their kings or princes and their courses. And the course of
Iraq is without power as well.
Disregard the law. As a matter of fact, there's going to be law enforcement with some of these people that are kicking indoors. A man shall desire to go into a city and should not be able. They're going to set up zones where you cannot and cannot pass, and you can and somehow in the midst of this, the MOTV is going to be introduced.
Yep.
Or to try and bring peace back. It says, For because of their pride, cities shall be troubled, and houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for the great tribulation. And like you said, when the neighbors on your block hear your generators running, or they see that your lights are on, or they can smell the food cooking, they can smell it in the air, those people are going to be coming to visit you. And these are people that that you've had a beer with, that you've had friendly conversation with, that your kids have rode up and down the street on their bicycles and on their skateboards with. All right? It says, Behold, I will call together the kings of the earth to reverence me. Salaki. I got ahead of myself. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and shall spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. All right? So cities are going to be destroyed. Houses are going to be destroyed. Behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, and from the east, and Labanus, and to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. So the Lord is causing this the separation of men and the separation among Edom to make them go to war, fight, and destroy each other. And then there will be chaos within their dwelling places as well, as their governments fail, as the lights go out, as the food and power supplies diminish. Okay? So you just think about all the child trafficking and woman trafficking with, with Epstein and, and that were going on, the cartels or whatever, all this, the gangs and all that stuff that's been going on with law enforcement in place. How much worse do you think it's going to be when there is no law enforcement in place? This type of crimes happen now when we have a so-called lawful, civilized society, which is far from that, in all honesty. How much worse will it get when there is no rule of law? When policemen, most of them are corrupt anyway, but when they're not showing up to work because they're worried about their own houses and families. How bad do you think it's going to get then? All right? So, if once again, if you're not of the elect, if the Lord is not with you in those times and in those days, I don't care how much of a badass you are, how much of a good shot you are, what's his name, the Reaper. All right? Who was it, Jake? All right? Dude is bad as hell with them firearms, man. It's proven to show you when Jake, even though the sword was Esau's blessing, but, Jake, properly trained, outdoes Esau in anything, including his own blessing. All right? When Jake is trained.
Yep.
All right. Remember, basketball was full of Edomites until Jake started playing. Football, baseball. Well, the list.
It was a Jake over.
But nevertheless, none of that's going to save you if the Lord is not with you. That's what it comes down to. Are you a man of the Lord? Matter of fact, let me get one more scripture and wrap this up. Popped in my head. Over to 2 Ezra 16 and 73. I mean, that whole chapter, 16, that whole chapter is fire, man. But just to get to the point, 2 Ezra 16 and 73. Actually, I'm going to start at 71. 70. There shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection, see, upon those that fear the Lord. So they're coming after people that fear the Lord. It's going to be coming after people anyway. All right? They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still sporting and destroying those that fear the Lord. All right? So you believe, even these people, these so-called Christians and stuff, but they're coming after the people of the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall it be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. So it's going to be. So when these times come, it's going to be. You're going to find out who those precious men are that are more precious than the gold of Euphaz. All right, that those Isaiah 4:1 kick in. All right, because a woman's protection is going to be from a man of the Lord. There's nowhere in the Bible it says that women they're going to just be preserved. It says through they're going to be preserved through men. That's what the Bible says. That's what the scriptures say. Church may say otherwise, you may say otherwise, but the scripture says that a woman shall be saved in childbearing. That means he's with a man. So with that, all praises going honor all praises going honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah Kodash Kwam Yasharala Abad Babal.
And Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teachers of truth and sincerity, and shout out to Yakims out there in four corners of the earth proclaim His truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Brakatum. So, nuclear threat against Iran. Trump said that he's going to destroy Iran in one night, overnight, if they don't agree to a so-called ceasefire agreement. And so, like everything else, though, well, what do they have? Are they actually going to use a nuclear weapon? I believe that it's a possibility they could use the neutron bomb, as Alex Jones is getting into. But they are going to use a bigger weapon, a terrorist weapon, weapons that are not supposed to be used in the war, but that didn't stop Babylon when they attacked Japan with it. A neutron bomb threat of the Israeli-Iran war, which is really World War III, because all the nations of the world are going to be involved with this. They sort of already are, but it's going to pick up very shortly. Talk of nuclear weapons and neutron bombs now underway in the war. So we'll unmute this. Alright.
Yes. Not, and for folks who don't know, there'll be some fires and stuff and car wrecks and things. And, stoves left on and things like that. There'll be a bunch of fires with a neutron bomb. But a neutron bomb just puts out a powerful radiation blast.
Yep.
And people that get hit, directly by it die in like a few minutes, and then people that are even bunkered down are going to die in a few days, and it's meaner than hell too. So you basically microwave everybody instantly. The Iranians are waiting until they see the whites of our eyes. Not good. All the fancy weapons aren't going to work so good then. Especially you got thousands and thousands of miles of coastline and stuff to deal with. 1,000 square miles. And it's a bowl of mountains all around it. So if you were going to create a scenario of the worst place to launch a beach invasion ever, a whole bunch of islands surrounded by huge mountains in a perfect bowl. Multi-thousand-foot sheer cliffs to even hit the mountains. Rat's nest of Iranian troops all in there. And you're like, well, we'll just go to full war with them. We'll use nuclear weapons if we have to. Yes, you would need to use neutron bombs.
So there you have it. So this could happen. The prospects of using neutron bombs taking it another notch before you even have the ground invasion, which is why you haven't heard of one yet. Although it has been said and reported that that so-called rescue operation was an attempt using the C-130 planes to actually launch troops into Iran to actually go in and try to take the enriched uranium, the so-called enriched uranium. So there was they actually attempted to do this, but like everything else, though, the C-130 planes were destroyed, and the operation was zilch. It didn't happen. But they, tried to sneak in there, saying that they're looking for a missing pilot. Well, that's rumors that's going around, right? But who's telling the truth? Well, let's see. Who's the government that always lies to its people and who has nothing to lose now? Iran's being attacked in every way possible. They have nothing to lose, so why would they need to make up such a thing? They don't. They don't have any reason to. They've been very honest about this from the very get-go. Death of Hollywood in 2 charts. Nightmare story of Hollywood playing out in real time for the world to see as a century-old entertainment economic implodes and bears all the hallmarks of what happened to Detroit after the auto industry went bust. So basically is they're putting out all these bread and circuses, but it's not making a lot of money. People ain't going to the movie theater like they used to, because why? World War III is going on, and not to mention, it's Pedowood, man. Everybody knows that there's nothing but pedophiles in Hollywood. Roseanne Barr has blown the lid off of it, and talked about it. Shirley Temple, a whole bunch of them have come out and said who's really behind all this, and that, pedophilia is what runs Hollywood, and they're made to do certain things in order to stay in Hollywood. It's very sickening, and guys like Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg have been getting away with it for years. They're not even exposed. The only reason you even know about them is because of alternative media. And Rob Reiner was another one, but then his son killed him. It's because of all the pedophilia that goes there. But see, enough has come out. Wall Street Journal reports describes Hollywood job market as being in collapse mode, with employment in the industry down 30% from its last 2022 peak. So it hasn't even peaked since 2022. Yeah, with all the movies coming out and all that. I know Terminator 7 was supposed to come out. Well, that didn't come out. Just a lot of things just ain't happening. Because there's no money to make in it anymore. They walk around glamorous and having all this shit. Well, don't forget that part of the taking down was, of course, a lot of those places got burned down, in the fire seasons, While behind the scenes, union workers logged 36% fewer hours last year than in 2022. So becoming an actor, becoming a Hollywood star really ain't all it anymore. One big reason that studios are making fewer shows and movies, and more of what they make is being filmed overseas or in other U.S. states than that offer better tax incentives. See, that's another thing, is because the taxes are just way too fucking high in Fuckfornia. None of these overseas productions or productions in other business-friendly states should come as a surprise that California is controlled by unhinged one-party rule leaders whose state-killing progressive policies have sparked a massive exodus of residents, businesses, even billionaire tech bros. And like everything else, though, you know, of course, it's tanking. It's tanking because of the fact that, well, you got the exposure of everything that happens there, but also, it's not profitable. It's not profitable at all. It ain't the big dream that you thought it was. It was a pipe dream at most. At one time. At one time. It ain't the pipe dream anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I'm going to be a star. You don't hear shit fucking talk like that like you might have in the 80s when you thought it was hit. You know. Nonetheless, though, you know, threats of nuclear destruction against Iran. President Trump threatens to take out entire country of Iran tomorrow night after Israeli leaders call for hitting Iran with nuclear weapons and neutron bombs. So there it is. Israeli state told him to do it. He's probably going to do it. You know, we may see the very beginning of these things being used against Iran. I think that he's going to do some serious shit to the nuclear power plant. I mean, using bigger bombs. You know, so definitely, you know, Trump, he does whatever Israeli state tells him to because the Operation Epstein fear, you know. Watch out, because Epstein.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. The entire country can be taken out in one night.
Nuclear war.
Might be tomorrow night.
All right, so that is terrorism 101. Trump threatens to take out, this is a quote, the entire country of Iran tomorrow night. Military planning underway. How do you take out an entire country? Now, we have the backdrop of the neocon mouthpieces that he says listen to, saying use nukes. We have Netanyahu's deputy, who's even more hardcore than him, and they're talking about using nuclear weapons and neutron bombs. I'm the only one, a week before the attack 37 days ago, that said Israel has an arsenal of neutron bombs. Every major country does. Doesn't destroy infrastructure, but it kills even hundreds of feet underground in a giant radiation burst. Okay? You hit a full dose, you're dead in 5 minutes. Most people, a couple days. Excruciating pain. It's been tested on animals, you name it. They claim they stopped building them in the 70s. No, it's neutron bomb all the way.
So you get it now, you know. And, yeah, they did do movies like Project X where they were testing monkeys. If you hadn't seen it, it came out in the 80s, where they were testing monkeys to see how long they could survive. You know, it was very sickening that they would even do these tests, but nonetheless, they were doing it because, of course, the hammer of the whole earth, the terrorists of the world, you know, are planning to use this. But like everything else, though, their louvre is in their foot inside Iraq, so they can't really attack Iran from Iraq either. Syria is their only safe haven. That's why Syria is very much named in 2nd Ezra chapter 16, Isaiah chapter 17, and Jeremiah chapter 49. And eventually that stronghold, Damascus, will be consumed by nuclear destruction, taking out the foothold. Well, Bashar al-Assad does not run Syria anymore. The Assad dynasty is gone. And so there's nothing but terrorists running it, a.k.a. American proxies, terrorists, because that's all that Hayat al-Sham is. Now, like everything else, though, Turkey also had played its part in the terrorist group Hayat al-Sham, who was getting funding and armaments from Turkey all the time into the Idlib province, while the Syrian Arab army was just relaxing. They were getting armaments into Idlib via Turkey for this. So like everything else, everybody plays a part. But make no mistake about it, you know, this will go nuclear, and we may see some neutron bombs in the next few hours. So, hey man, tonight, going into tomorrow ends the Passover. We could actually see huge destruction as the Passover ends. You know, we're already in World War III, no doubt. But This is the next level. You know, I mean, we keep talking about the next level of what they'll do. And here it is. This is a rumor, a war that may come to pass within the next few hours. You know, but of course, like everything else, for it to go fully nuclear where everybody's shooting them, well, that only comes after the MOTB is mandated, so that hasn't happened yet. So let's not get too excited, but nonetheless, though, neutron bombs is not nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are ICBMs. They'll be fired across the four corners of the earth, especially against Babylon, you know, because they're the ones that started the war. Everybody knows that Trump started the war. You know, he's going to get the blame. Now, he's just the guy that wears a clown suit. I mean, this was a Rothschild Rockefeller plan. Everybody is in bed with the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. Even Bashar al-Assad was, you know, all of them are there because they're the ones that rule the world in secret, but they're not the ones getting shamed. King Bibi and Donald Trump will be the ones shamed. And again, you know, they're saying that King Bibi is unalived, you know, which is the newer term for fucking dead, you know, but that'll only be revealed after the war. Well, this war only ends when Yahushua and the angels come and destroy Esau completely. That's how the war ends. We're here. We're in the war. We're in the third woe, and it cometh quickly, meaning that nuclear destruction will come quickly. Because you can see how the war got started. It started with the so-called war against Iran, but then all the countries started getting involved. Now you see an axis of resistance resurrected, and they're all involved. And then you've seen a lot of other nations getting involved. Turkey's going to have to make a move soon because it's affecting them. It's affecting global trade, and it's all being done on purpose to usher in the MOTB. Everything's in place. So anyhow, you know, this is a little breakdown on what's going on inside Iraq, which used to be the foothold of the U.S. military. Ever since they took over Iraq, they always wanted it as a launching pad. Well, now they're pushed back into Syria. Why? Because it's too much pushback. You've got the Iraqi resistance forces, which ain't even the Iraqi government, but nonetheless, though, you know, they're getting hammered by the Iraqi resistance forces. So the weak are saying they're strong, and they're pushing the hammer the whole earth back.
Trump's ultimatums to Iran still coming to nothing and the Strait of Hormuz remaining all but closed, it's yet more signs of the declining U.S. influence around the world and the sun setting on the whole idea of the so-called Pax Americana. And that trend also appears to be on display right now in Iraq, where drones have reportedly attacked the U.S. airbase near Baghdad's main airport and killed the defense contractor at the facility in Erbil. It's a country state where the U.S. has spent trillions of dollars and lost the lives of thousands of its soldiers, all to install an American-friendly government. Now, RT's Isabella Bloomberg takes a deep dive into what the results of Operation Iraqi Freedom actually led to.
Pax Americana, American peace. An era when the US wrote the rules, and it's expiring, and even Europe's leaders are
being
saying
dismantled before your eyes.
Pax Americana. The decades of Pax Americana are largely over for us in Europe, particularly in Germany. It no longer exists as we knew it, and nostalgia doesn't help either.
Germany's chancellor, not exactly a radical voice, declaring the Pax Americana era finished for Europe. And from Beijing, the assessment is sharper.
The history in the future will look back at the year 2026 and mark it as the beginning of the end of Pax Americana. No matter how you define Pax Americana is coming to an end. And this year is the beginning of the end of Pax Americana. Whatever President Trump and his government are doing right now only have one result or one impact. That is to further accelerate the demise of Pax Americana.
So when did it all start to unravel? Well, a strong case can be made. It was in 2003. American tanks rolled into Baghdad. The US sought to remake the Middle East. Today, drones are hitting Washington's bases across Iraq, and the US is now offering $3 million for just a tip to help find who's attacking. Iraq will try to cement US hegemony in the Middle East. Instead, it became the rot. Washington toppled a government, dissolved an army, rewrote the legal frameworks, and placed America's picks to command the country's future. And here's how that chapter opened.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations
recent history
to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
The only threat is America.
We will bring to the Iraqi people food and medicines and supplies and freedom.
What a lie. They know that it's a lie. Yep, and that's what it is.
Before Baghdad,
A war of terror.
Washington appointed its man to run the country. Not an Iraqi, an American. And former President Bush announced who would effectively govern Iraq.
Today it's my honor to announce that Jerry Bremer has agreed to become the presidential envoy to Iraq. In selecting Jerry Bremer, our country will be sending one of our best citizens. He's a man with enormous experience. He's a person who knows how to get things done. He's a can-do type person.
The Coalition Provisional Authority, also known as the CPA, held all the levers, political appointments, dishing out the oil revenue, and writing the legal code. It was an administration by occupation presented as liberation, but it couldn't last, and by June 2004, Washington was already being forced to hand sovereignty back. Well, at least nominally. Bush was even asked directly, are you really going to give Iraq full sovereignty?
One of the interesting things I've heard, Terry, from other leaders are you really going to pass full sovereignty? And the answer is yes, we're going to pass full sovereignty. And the Iraqi government will need the help of a lot of people. And we're willing to be a participant in helping them get to the elections.
Full sovereignty, except the U.S. military stayed. The bases stayed, the contractors stayed. Boots were definitely still on the ground. American officials continued shaping Iraqi politics behind the scenes for years. But the war itself, that was already turning into something Washington hadn't planned for. Instead of cementing American power, the Iraq war drained it. It made it crumble. Even from the Trump administration, the verdict is damning.
The most obvious example of one of these failures is our invasion of Iraq based upon a total fabrication or complete failure of intelligence. This disastrous decision led to the deaths of tens of thousands of American soldiers, millions of people in the Middle East, mass migration, destabilization, and undermining of the security and stability of our European allies, the rise of ISIS, strengthening of Al-Qaeda and other Islamist jihadist groups, and strengthening Iran.
Not one goal achieved, hundreds of thousands killed, and ISIS flourished. Iran gained a land bridge to the Mediterranean, and America lost its credibility. Fast forward to 2026, and Iraq has a caretaker government that can't hold elections, in part because, according to reports, Trump objected to its main candidate. But the real power lies not in the government, but in the Popular Mobilization Forces, aka the PMF. Formerly part of Iraq's security apparatus, but in reality, it has independent command with deep ties to Tehran. And now, it's openly attacking US bases.
Yeah, that's just one of the main groups. The Iraqi resistance forces are even bigger than that.
The Iraqi government, officially a US ally, just gave these groups the green light to fire away.
In light of the unjustified attacks and grave violations of Iraq's sovereignty and the targeting of official security agency headquarters, the Council has decided the following. To confront and respond to the military attacks carried out through combat aircraft and drones that target the headquarters and official security formations of the Popular Mobilization Forces and other formations of our armed forces by all possible means, in accordance with the principle of the right to reply and self-defense.
Washington responded by offering a $3 million bounty for information on attacks against its own embassy, and a sharp statement blaming Baghdad.
The Iraqi government has not prevented terrorist attacks in or from Iraqi territory. Iran-aligned terrorist militia groups may claim to be associated with the Iraqi government. Terrorists may carry identification denoting their status as Iraqi government.
The only terrorist is the
Iraq's
U.S.
Foreign Ministry essentially shrugged, saying it wasn't us.
Iraq is not a party to this conflict and does not wish to become involved in it, despite being among the countries most affected by its security, economic, and political repercussions. Such individual acts or those carried out by limited groups are considered unlawful and do not, in any way, reflect the role of the government of Iraq or its institutions. The government's position on such acts is clearly demonstrated through its firm and public stances against them, and its explicit characterization of these actions, which makes such assumptions surprising.
So here's the real dilemma, and it's not Iraq's. Sure, the US, quote, won the war in Iraq in 2003, and we can't forget George W. Bush's infamous mission accomplished speech that didn't age very well.
My fellow Americans, major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
But the fight fighting dragged on. So what mission was accomplished? 23 years later, Washington lost all of its strategic control. Non-state actors are hitting American bases, and a nominal ally is hosting forces that openly target US military assets. And the White House can no longer dictate a single outcome, especially in a region where the hunters risk becoming the prey.
So like everything else though, you know who that NATO ally is? That's talking about Gomer and all its troops. See, like everything else though. Well, one thing for sure though, they also see the PDF, and they also, PDF, well those Kurdish groups, PKK I meant to say, PKK and the YPG as terrorists. So of course they're going to support the Iraqi resistance forces, which makes up a lot of groups as well. So like everything else though, well that's what's pushed them into Syria, you know, where most of their launching is coming from Syria now, as well as United Arab Emirates and all that area of Saudi Arabia. But they're very vulnerable. They have to hide out in hotels because the bases simply are uninhabitable. U.S.-Israeli strikes against Iran escalate as Tehran defies Trump's Tuesday deadline. So, like everything else, though, they're going to use bigger weapons, or will they? Iran shows no sign of backing down Tuesday as a U.S. deadline loomed for it to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, to open up the fucking Strait of Hormuz. Or, you know, they said, he even mentioned Allah in there. The Iranian army dismissed what Trump's arrogant rhetoric and baseless threats, saying that they would not hinder operations against U.S. and Israeli terrorists more than 5 weeks into the war. Trump warned that unless Tehran allows free passage through the strategic oil choke point by midnight, Greenwich Mean Time, so okay, I can do the math to Greenwich Mean Time. So that's, it's midnight Greenwich Mean Time, which would be 1,600 hours over here on the Pacific coast. So 1,600 hours. They have until 1,600 hours. Okay, got it. Fighting across the region overnight, with the Israeli military saying Tuesday it carried out a wave of airstrikes on what it called Iranian terror regime infrastructure. The only terrorists are you goddamn fucking gutter rats. Across the Gulf, Bahrain's Interior Ministry said air raid sirens sounded Tuesday morning, urging residents to seek shelter, while the United Arab Emirates said its defenses were actively engaging missiles and drones. Saudi Arabia's defense ministry said its air defenses intercepted and destroyed 7 ballistic missiles launched towards the kingdom's east, with debris falling near energy facilities. War will continue until enemy regrets and deterrence is secured. So this is their conditions on ending the war. They're looking to end the war. You know, that's what the stance has always been. No ceasefire. No 45-day ceasefire. Fuck you. No, we want it to fucking end. We don't trust you. You're a liar. You know? Until they are crippled, there's not going to be an end to this war. Well, guess what, though? You know that they're going to escalate, of course. Of course the U.S. and the Israeli state are going to escalate and try to use some of them bigger weapons. Iran stated that it will continue fighting until what it described as the enemy reaches a point of regret, asserting that it is necessary to prevent any future attacks and end to the war. Claiming the U.S. and Israeli state failed to object their objectives in the war against Iran, asserting they were effectively defeated. And it's true, Iran has won the war already. All they had to do was last. So, you know, Trump in his rhetoric, right? They're animals. Trump doubles down on threat to destroy Iran's critical infrastructure. U.S. pushback on suggestions that this would be a war crime. U.S. President doubled down on his threat to obliterate Iran's critical infrastructure, which could include its energy, communication, and water systems if Tehran don't agree to its preconditions for a deal by 2000 hours local time in D.C. on Tuesday. Well, that we're past that. Now he's got another delay, right? Oh, wait, that would be. Never mind. Yeah, so that's 2000 hours Eastern time. Okay, so 2000 hours Eastern time, because 16 plus 4 equals 2,000 hours. So, yeah, 2,000 hours Eastern time, Tuesday. So, hey, man, the Passover ends on Wednesday. Wednesday night is when it's concluded. And he's already saying a lot of shit's going to hit. Because that's when his deadline is. So we'll see. We will see. We are obliterating that country, and I hate to do it, but we're obliterating them. And they just don't want to say uncle. It shows you how sadistic he is, right? They don't want to cry, as the expression goes, uncle, but they will. And if they don't, they'll have no bridges, they'll have no power plants, they'll have not anything. Trump told reporters at the anal White House, I'm not even going to say that word, roll on Monday. How would it not be a war crime, one reporter asked in reference to Trump's threats? Because they killed 45,000 people in the last month, Trump responded, referring to Iran's government. Is Trump admitting that 45,000 U.S. terrorists were killed? Is this what he's admitting between the attacks, the retaliatory strikes against Israeli state and the U.S. amounts to 45,000 people? Is he admitting this? Did he just admit it? So there you go. I think that he let that one slip. So 45,000 people have been, and I knew it was more than 1,500, but they haven't been honest. This may be a slip of the tongue. No independent entity has been able to verify such a figure. Iran's official number is under 4,000 from those killed in the mass protests that erupted in January, including police officers. Oh, okay, so he's talking about that, but I think that he was referring to, he said within the last month. So this is not even talking about protesters. This is talking about the war. Oops. There we go. They're animals and we have to stop them, Trump added. When Iranians don't hear bombs go off, they're upset. They want to hear bombs because they want to be free. So, you've heard his bullshit before. Oh, I meant to say Trump shit because that's beyond bullshit. Trump's delusional threats will not make up for the U.S. humiliation in West Asia. And they are being humiliated. All they can do is just keep on being pushed back, but still keep on making threats. That's basically what Iran has proved. U.S. President Trump's baseless threats cannot erase D.C.'s humiliation in West Asia. Iran's senior military spokesman said, dismissing the latest ultimatum as a sign of deadlock and desperation. Babylon has been humiliated in West Asia, the spokesman said, adding that these threats cannot erase the U.S. disgrace in West Asia. Trump threatened to attack Iran's power plants, bridges, and other infrastructure if Tehran does not accept its demands. D.C. has also suggested a ground invasion. This rude, arrogant, and baseless threats of the delusional U.S. president, which stem from being trapped in a dead end from attempts to justify the consecutive defeats of the U.S. military, will have no effect on continuation of the crushing offense operations of the fighters of Islam against American Zionist enemies, he said. The spokesman warned that each American action would be met with fresh defeat. So there it is. We'll just see what he does. This is going to escalate real quick if he carries out anything that he says. Trump threatens to jail journalist over Iran rescue raid leak. Uh-oh. Oh, don't you dare tell the truth. You can't be a reporter. You can't be an investigative reporter. Well, hey, you know that there's going to be a famine of the words soon, right? Because eventually, we report, when we hear it, we report on it, which is what we're told to do in Habakkuk chapter 2. U.S. President Trump threatened to jail the journalists who first reported the details of a rescue mission, which was shut down over last week unless they reveal the source of their information. Trump said the pilot was recovered within hours on Friday, while the weapons system officer, badly injured and hiding in a mountain crevice, was rescued early Sunday after a complex mission involving more than 150 aircraft. Trump said that the government was hoping to keep the second airman disappearance secret to prevent Iranian forces from capturing him, but after multiple news outlets reported that one crew member was still missing, Trump alleged the leaks had alerted Iran's military and put the service member's life in danger. That's what he claims. Really? I don't see that they did. Did they give the location? No. But, you know, to go after, right? So this video goes into it more. More from Tim Truth channel, which he goes into these things as well.
Okay, terrible news. Trump is now threatening reporters with arrest and jail, simply for publishing the truth about what's going on in Iran. And he's doing this right before a huge escalation to purposely keep us in the dark about what's happening.
The person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say. And
okay, we have huge news. Trump is now threatening reporters with jail. Presumably also the military insiders who tell the press anything are also being threatened. Trump says he'll throw a reporter in jail if he does not give the information about the identity of the military personnel who told him the information that led to the story being run, that there was a search and rescue operation for a downed American pilot. We are treading in some scary waters now. This is extremely troubling on multiple levels. First of all, while you could say that releasing sensitive information, classified information, by the military personnel who did it was illegal, to then blame a journalist for doing their job and taking anonymous tips and publishing them, and threatening them with arrest if they don't share their reporter notes and ID their sources, opens the door for so much tyranny. Think about it, this isn't even that big of a deal. I mean, somebody got shot down over Iran and there's a rescue mission. That's not a huge revelation. So basically the press is supposed to sit on their hands and completely be silent. And if they publish any information about troop whereabouts, etc., the federal government will throw them in jail. This is crazy. So the key thing I would like to point out is this is just the first example. But as this war rages on and escalates, as we know it will, there's now this precedent, this chilling effect, and possibly even incarceration for one or more journalists, looming over everybody's heads. This is crazy. Okay, breaking news, Trump is now threatening anybody who publishes information about the war with arrest. So here's the news. Trump says his administration will contact the person who published the article leaking the second U.S. F-15E pilot was missing on Friday. Trump says that the author of the article will go to jail if they do not release the name of this person who leaked this information. Listen to this clip from the press conference today.
when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say, and that doesn't last long, and I think everybody would understand it. They put this mission at great risk. They put that man at great risk, and they put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him, because everyone now knows that we're going in.
This is an attack on journalists and on whistleblowers. This is really, really bad. So if you accept this premise, or even if you don't and you object to it, but you extrapolate where this is going, pretty much any story of interest about what the United States is doing in Iran could be met with a journalist being thrown in jail. And then, of course, this is going to prevent the military people from telling us what's going on. We're not going to know the extent of the war crimes being committed. And this is not a new trend. Look at this, back summer of last year. New DOJ policy on journalists and sources fuels Trump's lies, is the headline from Freedom of the Press Foundation. Sounds like what we're hearing today. On April 25th, the Department of Justice announced the reversal of an internal policy that protected journalists from federal prosecutors, seizing their records or forcing them to name their confidential sources. Sound familiar? So this is the memo that went out from Pam Bondi. She says, I am directing the Office of Legal Policy to publish new regulatory language. The Justice Department will not tolerate unauthorized disclosures that undermine President Trump's policies, victimize government agencies, and cause harm to the American people. Where a government employee improperly discloses sensitive information for the purposes of personal enrichment and undermining our foreign policy, national security, and government effectiveness, all ultimately designed to sow chaos and distrust in government. This conduct could properly be characterized as treasonous. The perpetrators of these leaks aid our foreign adversaries by spilling sensitive and sometimes classified information onto the internet. The damage is significant and irreversible. Criminal prosecutions are necessary to set a new course. The news media must answer subpoenas when authorized at the appropriate level within the DOJ. So they're talking about compelling production of information and testimony by and relating to members of the news media. So back to this article by the Freedom of the Press Foundation. In the past, the DOJ has jailed or threatened to jail journalists who refuse to name their confidential sources and has secretly subpoenaed their phone and email records to search for their sources. But it's getting worse. This new direction will be wielded by the most anti-press administration in American history, headed by a president who has called for journalists to be jailed and raped for refusing to name sources. I had not heard of this one. Back in 2022, Trump keeps musing about journalists being raped in prison. A knowledgeable source tells Rolling Stone that the former president has wondered how he might be able to jail reporters if he retakes the White House. Well, apparently that's coming to fruition. This is horrifying. Here's some quotes from this article from Trump. Quote, the leaking from the Supreme Court is unbelievable, but you get the information very easily. You tell the reporter, who is it? And if the reporter doesn't want to tell you, it's bye-bye. The the reporter goes to jail. When the reporter learns he's going to be married to a certain prisoner who's extremely strong, tough, and mean, he will say, you know, I think I'm going to give you that information. A month prior to that, he said the reporter would give up the identity of the leaker as soon as they realized they were going to be the bride of another prisoner very shortly. The bride of a prisoner. Very shortly. He said other countries do it. As the article says, Trump wants to lie to us with impunity. Journalists and whistleblowers are one of the few things standing in his way. So this is to stifle dissent, keep people in line, prevent people from blowing the whistle on heinous war crimes, and prevent the journalists from publishing said revelations if somebody has the gall to stick their neck out. This is only going to put us further and further in the dark about what's actually going on. This is absolutely grotesque. I absolutely hate this. And importantly, I think the one thing that people are missing in talking about this is how this could be used for anything relating to the war with Iran.
Correct.
Anything
Bringing in a famine of the word.
Simply that somebody has been downed and there's a rescue mission underway falls under this umbrella. What doesn't fall under this umbrella? You can twist and turn anything to meeting these criteria. So later today, I'll put out a full news rundown. There's a lot of crazy news, especially with this threat to attack civilian infrastructure en masse tomorrow, possibly blow up the whole country if you take Trump at his word. But I wanted to put this out standalone, this attack on the press, an attack on whistleblowers. So right before Trump ramps this whole thing up, they have this big spectacle. The pilot downed. A lot of people, by the way, think this was something other than a downed pilot.
Yep.
They don't believe the official story. They think this could have been some sort of a boots-on-the-ground operation for some reason. I haven't seen any smoking gun evidence of that. I just want to point out that I don't really believe this official story on its face. But what we know is true is that they're using this story to throw a big wet blanket over the press, to attack whistleblower rights, press freedom, and smokescreen what they're about to do, which is likely going to amount to thousands of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and worse, mass murder, and sending American troops into a trap to die for no benefit to this country.
And like everything else, though, you could definitely tell that most people are fed up with this war and they're sick of the lies. They're sick of the lies, so it's all being done deliberate. You know, such barbarism is unprecedented in modern history. Iran condemns U.S.-Israeli attacks against universities, which they've hit a lot of them. I mean, the list and numbers of people that have nothing to do with the war. But this is attacks on citizens. You know, they attacked Saddam Hussein, you know, the U.S. did, saying that he was using human shields. But like everything else, though, oh, that one's going to be a good one. I'll pull up that one, too. Iran has condemned the U.S.-Israeli attacks on universities, stating that such barbarism is unprecedented in modern history. In a letter circulated to the United Nations Security Council on Monday, Iran's permanent representative and ambassador to the UN referred to the grave breaches of international humanitarian law, acts of terrorism, and war crimes being perpetuated through the deliberate and indiscriminate targeting of civilians objects in Iran. So, we'll go ahead and play some of this, if I can get it to play.
Okay. Well, I'm at Strait University of Technology. As you rightfully mentioned yourself while you were speaking to our guests, it is comparable to MIT. This is one of the top universities of Iran. Some of the best minds of Iran are trained here and are educated here, and of course later join the workforce. These are the people that are basically the future of Iran. So seeing a university like this become a target is actually sending strong messages to the world. The enemy is actually sending a message. And this, as I'm telling you, is according to the students and professors of Strait University of Technology that I've had the opportunity to talk to as I came here today to see the level of the destruction and the devastation. You can see behind me a building that pertains to the philosophy of science department. It is completely destroyed, as you can see behind me, and of course the building behind it as well also have been destroyed by this attack. And there's a lot of questions. That is why I have with me one of the university professors of Strait, who is joining us right now, and he will give us some more explanation. Dr. Shadman, if you could please first introduce yourself, tell us what you do here, and tell us more about Strait University itself. What does it stand for in Iran? When we say someone studies or teaches at Strait University, what does it mean?
It means, as you mentioned correctly, it's one of the very top universities in Iran and also in the region. And I have been fortunate enough to be both a student and now a professor at university. I did my bachelor's and also my MBA at this university. Then I actually went to Canada and I did my PhD over there in management sciences. And then after being a university professor in France, Canada, and China, after a few years, I came back here to teach and educate.
Why was it important for you to come and teach in this particular university?
Because, as you mentioned, it attracts the very best minds in Iran. Many of these people become the greatest experts in engineering and sciences, and they are the powerhouse, actually, for Iran's development.
So you see that this is indeed just to totally destroy them as a people, you know, to pretty much take away everything from them, you know. But do we not see the same thing in Gaza? See, this Gaza war is what led to this war. When you look at the Third World War, that the least the flock shall draw them out, it started with Gaza, now attacking Iran. So we ain't got much time left when you look at the timeline, because, well, it's ushering in the MOTB. See, World War III, we can look at it as the beginning of that, but you can see the beginning stages, well, the genocide against Gaza, you know, also brought in the Third World War as well. So however you slice and dice it, the nuclear destruction, we may see some of the bigger bombs possibly by tonight, or he could back down or give a new deadline. He's been known to do that, give a new deadline, right? You know, because he says he'll blow them into oblivion. He'll destroy the bridges. He'll destroy their water facilitation all in one. You know, he continues to spew his rhetoric as they keep standing up to this bully. 75 Gulf energy assets damaged in U.S.-Iran war as supply shock intensifies. Done all systematically. Usher in the new system. Totally just blow everything up. The IEA executive director was interviewed by a French newspaper, Le Figaro, early on Tuesday and warned that the Gulf energy shock is more severe than those of 1973, 1979, and 2022 combined, because it's affecting oil, gas, food, fertilizers, petrochemicals, helium, and global trade all at once. Byroll said in an interview that more than 75 energy sites across the Gulf region have been attacked, with about a third severely damaged. 1/3 of everything that was there, suggesting tens of billions of dollars in repairs and a prolonged disruption of energy flows, further tightening global supplies and compounding the disruption at the Strait of Hormuz choke point. Which, like everything else, though, you know, Trump has, you know, backed up and said, oh, well, you need to take it, you know, and then begging the allies for help, which didn't happen. So now he's saying, open up the fucking strait, or I'm going to do this, you know, talking more shit, you know, threatening to use neutron bombs, nuclear weapons against them. Israeli state bombs Tehran as Iranians taunt Trump. The IDF reportedly waiting for the U.S. president's deadline to pass so it could hit Iran even harder. So like everything else, though, you know, standing up to a bully. Because this is what the terrorists do. Bombing civilian infrastructure. Trying to make Iran look like Gaza. So it's a lot more than just Gaza. But the world stood silent, except for Iran when it came to Gaza. Everybody else allowed it to happen. Israeli state conducted yet another wave of strikes against infrastructure targeting, including an airport in Tehran, after striking at least 2 petrochemical facilities in Iran the day before. In the meantime, Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense claimed the debris from a successful interception and destruction, or at least 7 ballistic missiles, fell in the vicinity of its energy facilities, with the damage still being assessed. So like everything else, though, you know, continuing on. 310 students and teachers killed, over 750 schools damaged in the U.S.-Israeli terror war against Iran. So just that one building. It's a lot more than that. And you already know how Trump said that it was fun to bomb the school, on the first day. It's fun. So this war is just for fun, putting everybody in the front lines at risk, because that's what he did. Just so he can run his fucking mouth and people defend his shit-talking president. Iran's Minister of Education say 310 students and teachers have been killed and over 750 schools sustained damage so far in the ongoing war of terror launched by the U.S.-Israeli terrorists against the Islamic Republic since late February. The U.S. and Israeli state launched their latest unprovoked war against Iran on 28th of February, assassinating the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah al-Khamenei. Senior military officials targeting nuclear facilities and schools and hospitals. So like everything else, here's some of the martyrs, Because remember, Trump says it's fun. So killing children is fun. I can see that it's really about the people of Iran. 160 were killed on that first day. Yet, these fucking goddamn Edomites want to fucking bitch about the Sandy hoax. The Sandy hoax was only 29. They killed 160 because Trump says it's fun. The hypocrisy of Esau Edom. They love it. So, this war for fun, killing children, well, that's what Esau's always done. Iran says U.S. rescued F-15 airmen, possibly diversion to steal enriched uranium. Yeah, that's what a rumor is, and this is coming from the cradle. Trump claimed the rescue operation led to the loss of multiple U.S. aircraft was a success, and yet other reports contradict his account. Yeah, I mean, you can see that the C-130s, the Black Hawk helicopters, all shot down by Iranian defenses. Iran's foreign ministry stated on the 6th of April that a U.S. operation which rescued a downed airman in southwest Iran may have been part of a deception to steal enriched uranium. On Sunday, U.S. President Trump claimed the U.S. recovered a second crew member of the F-15 warplane that Iran shot down on Friday. Trump boasted about the operation, saying it was a daring search and rescue operation, despite the destruction of multiple U.S. military aircraft, including two C-130 transport planes. And I've seen what these C-130s look like. They're the replacement of the C-141s. If you grew up near a military base, you know what a C-141 is. But nonetheless, the C-130 is even better. It's even bigger than the C-141 was. And at least one MH-6 helicopter in the process. Wreckage of the U.S. C-130 reportedly attempted to rescue the missing pilot in southern Iran. So, here's some of that. There's nothing left of it. It's just nothing. All gone. And remember, a C-130 can also, Black Hawk helicopters can come out of it too. But they were going to attempt a troop landing here, is what it looks like. So, I do know that it's not as big as a C-5, but a C-141, a C-130 does carry quite a bit of military troops. They're not going to tell you the numbers there. They won't. Nope. They'll continue to gaslight and say that they're winning the war. From Tabriz to Isfahan, Iran destroys two U.S. C-130s, echoing the 1980 Eagle Claw debacle. In stunning coordinated defensive warfare, Iranian forces combining the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, police, commando units, besieged resistance fighters, and regular army elements destroyed two America's C-130 transport planes and 2 Black Hawk helicopters in the southern Isfahan province early Sunday. The 37th day of the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran did not begin with American triumph, and as some U.S. officials claim, but with Iranian fire. Just after dawn on Sunday, D.C. launched that it would later desperately frame a successful rescue operation from a downed F-15 pilot for the 3rd of April engagement. So much fucking gaslighting. This is not very good work. You have just lost way fucking more to save one pilot. One pilot. Israeli state sends more troops to southern Lebanon to expand ground offensive. So here's the reason why boots on the ground, they're not going to support the U.S. because they want to try to take over Lebanon. You know, and try to go after Hezbollah. That's the reason why the IDF says, no, we need your blood. We want you to spill your blood for us so we can further our cause to dominate and charge ridiculous prices because we'll have dominance. Israeli army deployed additional division in southern Lebanon on Tuesday as the Israeli state continues to expand its ongoing ground offensive against the Arab country. In a statement, the Army said the 98th Division joined operations alongside the 91st, 36th, 146th, and 162nd Divisions as part of expanding ground operations alongside ongoing artillery and air strikes targeting areas in southern Lebanon, which they've been hitting Beirut too. So, like everything else, though. Over 1,460 killed in Lebanon since the beginning of Israeli strikes on the 2nd of March. So that's just this year. They've killed a lot more in Lebanon. Well, they said they were going after Hezbollah targets, but they seem to be going after civilian targets. Sound familiar? It's what they're doing in this war against Iran, you know. But like everything else, though, we're here now, you know. So we know that they're being pushed back into Syria. You know, the launching pads and all that, which tells me that Damascus will be a launching hub as to the reason why it gets taken out. You know, but nonetheless, though, you know, pretty much, though, they can't control their narratives. They're now threatening to arrest and jail journalists for reporting the truth. You know, which eventually means them coming after us because, you know, we also give you the scriptures telling you about Esau's demise. You know, we tell you who the Edomites are and their demise, which is all happening in real time. As we're reporting, you know, it's no longer about a future prophecy, it's what's happening now. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is there no longer any wisdom in Teman? Has their good counsel vanished from the intelligent and prudent? Has their wisdom decayed? Meaning that pretty much, though, they can't even spin a narrative. But I have stripped Esau, Edom, bare. I have uncovered his hiding places, and he cannot hide himself. His descendants have been destroyed alongside his brothers, relatives, and his neighbors, and he is no more. Meaning that pretty much, though, they're destroyed as a whole. Nobody can trust in each other. They don't believe anymore. And that's the beginning of destruction. But also talking about what this nuclear destruction is going to be. Esau's going to be found no more. Leave your orphans behind. I will do what is needed to keep them alive. Let those who are your widows trust and confide in me. Meaning that we'll be taking their wives while they're destroyed. You know. And you see it all the time at Jacover, man. We've taken a lot of women from Esau, Edom, man. You know, it's been a Jacover. You know, it's what you would call Israelite foreigners like myself who don't even look like, but yet, been with Edomite women, right? You know, because my father, obviously, where I come from, right? My mother was an Edomite, and my father being a Jake, you know, even though we don't look like, it's been happening for some time. You know, it's been a Jakeover. You know, and so like everything else, though, these wise men of Edom, well, they're very few and far between. For thus saith the Lord, Yahweh, those aka the Israelites, who are not sentenced to drink of the cup of wrath, shall certainly drink it, and you to remain unpunished. You will not be acquitted and go unpunished, but you will certainly drink from the cup of wrath and judgment. And that's what's happening now. For I have sworn an oath by myself, saith the Lord Yahweh, that Basra, which Basra you can also refer to as America, will become an object of horror, a reproach, and a ruin and a curse. And all its cities will become perpetual ruins. That is by way of this nuclear war, which we're seconds away from. You know, of course they have to usher in the MOTB, but they're now talking about using neutrons and nuclear weapons against Iran within the next few hours. You know, I believe that they'll use at least neutron bombs, you know, like they did against Yemen, because the Israeli state did use give Saudi Arabia a neutron bomb, and they used it against Yemen, and you can see that. And also they've used it in the war with Ukraine. You know, they used that against Russia. They set off a neutron bomb against Donbas. You know, and that's well recorded that those were neutron bombs. So we may see that in just a few hours. I have heard a report from the Most High Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent to the nations, saying, gather together and come against her and rise up for the battle. And that's happening now. See, like everything else, though, this is going to escalate, where all countries are going to launch their nukes and their weapons against Esau. For behold, Edom, I have made you small among the nations and despised among men. Therefore, hear the plan of the Most High Yahweh that he has devised against Edom, aka verse 20, and hear what he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely, the least the flock, surely he shall make their habitations, their dwelling place, desolate because of them. So, like everything else, though, meaning that they're going to be caught in this Third World War, which you see that very much so. They started this war of terror against Iran. The earth has quaked at the noise of the downfall. There is an outcry. The sound of its noise has been heard at the Red Sea, which is talking about on the side of Yemen. That's where the Red Sea is. Behold, he will mount up and fly swiftly as an eagle and spread his wings against the city of Basra, aka Babylon the Great. And in that day the heart of the mighty warriors of Edom will be as the heart of a woman in childbirth. Meaning that they are seeing these nuclear weapons being launched off. And it talks about Damascus right here, verse 23. So that's why we, me and others have talked about how it's going to be in Syria, that Damascus somehow must have been a launching pad, because no longer the government of Bashar al-Assad, or the Syrian Arab Army for that matter, but now a proxy of the U.S. Concerning Damascus, Hamath and Arpad are perplexed and shamed, for they have heard bad news. They are disheartened, troubled, and anxious like a storm-tossed sea which cannot be calmed. Well, why is that? Because, of course, the destruction that came. Damascus has become helpless. She has turned away to flee. Terror has seized her. Anguish and distress have gripped her like a woman in childbirth. And that's talking about the destruction that came. Why has the renowned city not been deserted, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men will fall in the streets, and all her men of war will be destroyed in that day, saith the Lord of the hosts. I will set a fire to the wall of Damascus, and it shall consume the houses of Ben-Hadad. Yes, Damascus was taken over, at late 2023, or at late 2024, going into 2025. But it did not see Damascus being destroyed completely. So this is talking about a future not too distant from now. And Ben-Hadad is another term for Syria. So we know Syria is in the hands of Babylon and the Israeli state, and that the Hayat al-Shem government works with the Israelis and with the U.S. So you can see that all the other bases have been completely fucking leveled and destroyed. So this is going to be their launching pad, it looks like. So, hey, as we're getting towards the end of the Passover, we see what's about to happen, what's about to befall. So, of course, this World War III is going to be the main topic. as well as the MOTB being mandated through the crisis that they've already created. They don't say Bracha the Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abal Babal. Brakatum, Jehovah Lek, Shalom.